How's it going, guys? My name's Graham, and welcome to part 3 of finding the references for completing the mission, a series specifically looking at all of the references in the Henry Stickmin Collection. This last installment is so large that we're tackling them one infiltrating the airship branch at a time. Here, we will be going through the 4 routes for Relentless Bounty Hunter. As per usual, I'll only be covering specific fails that include references, and I'll be saving any bios from these routes till the end of the video. First up is Relentless Bounty Hunter and Ghost Inmate. Henry stole a tank, defeated Right-Hand Man, and brought down the Top Hats, then was pardoned by the government. Once at the wall, he ditches Ellie and escapes solo. Right off the bat, in this opening scene, we have a Simsong TV. We've brought back this knockoff brand first seen in Stealing the Diamond. It's obviously a riff on Samsung. I think there's a little bit more to it than that. I explained back in the other video. Right-Hand Man's line,
"You've got to be pretty tired of waking up like this,"
acknowledges the fact that Henry has woken up like this at the start of both infiltrating the airship and fleeing the complex. Right-Hand Man has captured Henry and is out for revenge. He's also received some cybernetic upgrades. I absolutely love the voice effects used for the cyborg version of this character.
"That's right, it's me, but you thought you took me out."
It reminds me a lot of James Lee's Knox videos.
We stopped hanging out for some reason. I wonder whatever happened to that guy.
Well, nobody gets away from the topic, Glenn.
Although I doubt that's an actual intended reference, maybe it's an inspiration or just a similar vocal effect plugin. Either way, it sounds super cool, especially when layered with Right-Hand Man's accent. While hanging in this cell, Remote results in Henry being ejected into space, floating away in a sequence meant to be identical to Inner Sloth's other game, Among Us. In case that wasn't obvious enough on its own, they made sure to highlight that in the fail text. Seems like there's still an imposter among us. Inner Strength results in a reference that's as straightforward as they come. "You can't break those cuffs" is a meme spawning from an episode of Cops where a cuffed individual tries to snap his cuffs.
"I can break these cuffs."
You can't break those cuffs. We appreciate your cooperation now, okay?
Magic Spell leads to a success, casting Thunder 2 from the Final Fantasy series. I just really like the look of those brief shocked frames in this electrocution scene. It's just a fun bit of cartoony animation. You could call it a reference to anything Looney Tunes or almost anything cartoony. I don't think it's that specific. After breaking free, Henry can use the lockpick. Attempting to use the lockpick with the descriptive text at the bottom being similar to any text-based adventure game like King's Quest, describing the use of an item and the outcome of that use. Games of that genre often have unexpected results when the players interact in specific ways or spam a certain option. Here we can spam the lockpick option, as it isn't initially a fail. Our increasingly agitated narrator states, "There's no lock to pick. There's still no lock to pick. You gotta stop trying this, man. There is no lock." Fine, you want a lock? There's your lock. In complete exasperation, the game or the narrator or whoever supplies a lock. When trying to use it, we are instead hit immediately with a fail, and this earns the achievement Lockpick Pro. "No lock, no problem" reminds me of a tagline from some sort of infomercial, but I cannot find a specific one using that exact format. The bomb can be interpreted rather generically from many different games, although leaving it next to a doorway like this is most commonly associated with the Zelda franchise. Rather than that generic inclusion, I'm instead sharing it here now because across the series, this is the 3rd use of bomb as an option, with it failing every single time. I just wanted to point out its relative unreliability. And while I'm busy just kind of pointing things out, I want to acknowledge how hilarious of a gag Melt Ray is. It delivers exactly what it promised, and it's just amazing. The correct option is the Metal Hat, from the Mario series originating in Super Mario 64. The shimmering purple appearance of Metal Henry, the accompanying music, the heavy metal thumps and indestructibility are also spins on what is seen in that game. I think the music is especially well done. I just want to appreciate that for a second. Henry dashes into the armory, who somebody left open.
Who left this open?
One option is the big sword, different from the big ol' sword, and is meant to be the Buster Sword used by Cloud Strife in Final Fantasy VII. The way the bookie is subsequently chopped, the fade out to red, as well as that sound effect, are also lifted from the Final Fantasy series. Our success is the Pew Pew gun, meant to look like the NES Zapper accessory used in games like Duck Hunt. The flashes of light, sounds, and dropping characters with points earned are all pulled from Duck Hunt as well. As Henry continues his rampage, someone calls Right-Hand Man to warn him. I like the way we see his eye swap to a call symbol. I just thought it was a neat little detail. Right-Hand Man's super stretchy arm attack here made me think of Piccolo's Mystic Attack, but I think it might be something else. Maybe it's just a cool, unique ability he has. But if anyone can find a recreation of this exact scene, that would be really cool. In their confrontation, Henry can use Harden, like in Pokemon. People had suggested other possible references, but this is really driven home with the fail text, "It's not very effective." Although that's usually reserved for the perceptive effectiveness of attacks rather than defenses, we're kind of getting a bit of a spin on that. Oh well. There may even be a layered joke here in that within the Pokemon series, Steel is super effective against Rock, with Right-Hand Man's Steel hand shattering Henry's Rock head. I vote we give Puff the credit and say that was on purpose. Sweep the leg comes from the Karate Kid.
Sweep the leg.
Although the actual result of Henry kicking metal and grabbing his hurt leg might be a reference to Obi-Wan attempting to use a similar move on General Grievous. That's so specific that it might just be a funny coincidence. Henry then gets his ass beat so hard he starts turning into rough outlines rather than fully detailed drawings. I believe this technique is used in really high impact, intense anime action scenes. It could have been a stylistic choice here. I'm suspicious the reference is maybe more specific and I'm missing it. But at the end, that's going to be an ouch from me, dog, is a play on a catchphrase from Randy Jackson during the auditions for American Idol. They're not all video game references. Now and again we get weird things like Karate Kid and American Idol. The emergence of the nanosuit is a lot like the newest bleeding edge armor tech Tony Stark has on display in Avengers Infinity War. Henry even pats his chest to activate it, just like Tony does. The positron reflector is that used by Fox McCloud, commonly seen as a Fox's down B in Smash as a reflective defensive move. In this sequence, it even deflects a quick little red laser from Right-Hand Man, much like Fox's own laser gun, before he is smashed out of the screen with an edge flash and game, just like in the Smash Bros. Series. Unfortunately, it only reflects projectiles. Pretty easily outdone. After smashing a solar panel with the max gravity boots, Henry is able to hide behind a shard. He may choose one of 4 celestial objects. Choosing to return to Earth has Henry burn up in the atmosphere. Toasty is a reference to the Mortal Kombat series, which was its own Easter egg, first appearing in Mortal Kombat 2. An image of sound designer Dan Forden appears on screen and announces Toasty in a falsetto voice. It's a weird part of those games, became a running gag over the course of the series. When using the communications satellite, Henry is definitely sending out Morse. But I don't think it matches with what they're saying Henry is communicating.
Yeah, just keep saying attack, 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 fire, shoot the laser.
The bursts of the Morse code are far too brief, and the beeps too inconsistent in their length. I spent a long time looking at it, and I don't really think there's anything there. It's just random beeps. Choosing the escape pod allows Henry to set Earth as a destination, crashing through the Topat satellite on the way. This is rather Holdo maneuver-esque, although more could be done to sell that reference if intended. Henry is then left to lounge on a beach and enjoy the sunset. With no real strings or consequences or commitments here, we earn the ending, Free Man. If you give me 30 seconds, I have something really exciting for you guys. I know people aren't huge fans of sponsored ad segments. I had those in the last 2 videos, but I hope you don't think that I'm just putting that money in the coffers somewhere, swimming around in it like Scrooge McDuck. I have big plans and high ambitions for 2 Left Thumbs. The first thing I'm doing with this money is rolling it forward into indie game publishing. I'm working with the Milk Bar lads, taking their free online game Dead Estate, working to more than double the content and help bring that to Steam later this year. It is a roguelike action shooter with horror themes and and influences, lots of randomization, we're getting new characters, new floors, new items, new challenges, all sorts of new content. If you're a fan of things like The Binding of Isaac or Gungeon, this is going to be right up your alley. That is one of my favorite types of games to play, and so I'm so excited to be working closely with these developers. That Steam page is live, I'll have a link down below, please go wishlist it. That signals to Steam that you're interested, it helps them promote the game more, it helps that game, it helps me, it helps the channel, win, and I just think you guys will like the game. You can also play the free version over on Newgrounds or itch, definitely check it out. Thanks for hearing me out, I'll remind you again at the end of the video. Next up is the combination of relentless bounty hunter and convict allies. Henry defeated right-hand man, stole a tank, was pardoned by the government, only this time he worked with Ellie when escaping the wall. Ellie indicates that she is only vaguely aware of the Toppats, but has contacts of her own to help the two of them track down their secret base. They take Henry's tank, which is very much meant to be the white tank of the logo for Newgrounds, and go all out in an epic action-packed train heist with bump and dubstep to boost. This tank can get serious air. And this guy over here has a cannon that shoots swords? What the heck is going on in this scene? Michael Bay could learn a thing or two. If Henry and Ellie both grab swords, the tank accidentally rolls over Ellie. The quick pop-up, betrayal, and lost the lead are all references to multiplayer matches in the Halo franchise.
Betrayal. Lost the lead.
Betrayal. Lost the lead.
Logically, we are able to fire the tank, caving in the tunnel. We quickly cut to Mr. Macbeth, who we previously established is a layered Star Fox reference, now shouting,
I can't stop it!
Which is a direct quote from that same Star Fox character again.
I can't stop it!
I can't stop it!
I also just love that he's reading Choo Choo magazine. Those conductors gotta stay up to date. Force Lift itself is of course a Star Wars reference, but is also a callback to the fact Ellie has used some Force powers. First seen back in Fleeing the Complex. She ends up chucking the gold way too far away. We get it, you lift. It's more of a joke about gym bros who won't or can't shut up about lifting. The Purse of Holding's name and ability to hold well beyond its physical limitations are likely references to the Bag of Holding from Dungeons & Dragons, but the appearance of it, and the whole "you two look like you could use some patented Purse of Holding carrying purses," is a riff on the candy bar bag carrying bags from SpongeBob SquarePants.
You two lady killers are too smart to be without one of my patented candy bar bag carrying bags.
The Fulton is a reference to Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, Fulton's surface-to-air recovery system. We get a series first here, which is a fake-out of branching options. We've had fake-out fails and fake-out endings, but having this quickly on screen had never happened prior. There is obscure reference, your suggestions, and really dumb option. The obscure reference isn't just totally generic, it is meant to be Lero, a multiplayer dueling game much like Worms. Your suggestions, being a smiling trash can, is something that I assume comes as a reaction to years of fans sending Puff endless suggestions for the franchise. This may be his not so subtle way of letting us all know that our ideas are in fact trash. And really dumb option is an image of a stick person picking their nose, which is odd because we've never seen them with noses. Anyways, I think that's more of a meta joke and a play on the idea that usually at least one of Henry's available options is notably extra dumb. We then get our for realsies options. First off, Shell Bounce, which is a special attack used in the Mario and Luigi RPG series. Maybe trying to do something solo with one of these is why the green shell never worked back in infiltrating the airship. The needle itself is a little bit of a really dumb option, as right-hand man can obviously just fly as it falls. But we then get a multitude of needle puns in this fail. What was the point of that? Not the sharpest idea. I'm gonna pin the blame on you for that one. Did you really needle that money? And in teeny tiny text. Alright, that last one was a stretch. I guess not all pokes are created equal, eh? Our final option is then the Wombo Combo, which comes from a famous Smash Bros video where Captain Falcon and Fox finish off their opponent, Fox, with a crazy over-the-top finishing combo.
Happy feet, Wombo combo. That ain't Falco. That ain't Falco. Where you at?
There are a few things going on here. First, the combo has been referenced before, with audio from the original Wombo Combo being used during the epic MLG gaming moment from Fleeing the Complex, also featuring Ellie. Specifically during the Convict Allies route. Once the comboing begins, Ellie even says happy feet?
Happy feet.
Which again comes from that original video.
Happy feet.
It should be noted that Captain Falcon is on the team of winning fighters in that original combination of Wombo, although he doesn't actually use a Falcon punch. This is more of a Stickmin series payoff, with Henry finally executing a proper Stickmin punch. Something that Henry has used multiple times, but under and overshooting it previously. I guess those 2 times he was doing a Falcon punch and a Falcon kick, but really he just needed to do his own Stickmin punch the whole time. Yes, I insist on saying punch if that's what he's gonna say.
Falcon punch. Falcon Stickmin.
Here, it finally lands. This is one of the shorter paths in completing the mission, and earns the ending, Capital Gains. Next up is Relentless Bounty Hunter and Presumed Dead. Again, Henry is in the government's good graces. He stole a tank, defeated Right-Hand Man, with Reginald being arrested. At the wall, he makes an epic solo escape, faking his own death to avoid recapture. Henry overhears 2 guys talking about how they left all their gold in one train car. Then, disguised as the mysterious vagabond, he swipes their plans. Most of the small bits of text you see throughout completing the mission in the background are just scribbles, unlike in those older Flash games. Extra details like that worked well because Flash allowed you to zoom in while playing. Puff stated that he didn't think people would be able to easily rip these files to examine them more closely, so he didn't bother hiding little Easter eggs in there. My apologies for sort of ruining that myself, but the plan actually does have some minor text, although it simply reads, "Take the train to the secret base, then we blast off. Okay." We then cut to the train 1 day away from launch. The train car is marked with a giant Mario-style gold coin on the side. If Henry chooses to join the caravan, he attempts to sidle up to things all nonchalant. It worked wonders when he needed through that front gate. Why not act like he belongs here as well? He is instead very casually shot. "All you had to do was follow the dang train, Henry." A direct quote from Big Smoke during a mission in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ.
Henry succeeds when plowing the tank directly into the side of one of the train cars. If you do nothing, the ego-driven Blast Connors shoots Henry down, somehow having the confidence to pull off the phrase.
I'll gun him down.
With that very peculiar pronunciation, he then does a full-on anime run along the top of the train. This gives a new definition to bullet time, referring to the term for the slow-mo effect originating from the Matrix film. The successful option is to use agility, lifted straight from Pokemon, a move commonly used by Pikachu as well as many others. During this, Henry pulls various very brief poses, including a full-on dab, and a classic Mario-style hop and bop jump, like he was boinging off a Goomba. Following this is one of the most elaborate, direct references seen in this series. Mr. Macbeth intercepts Henry in the hall and initiates an incredibly true to its origin Undertale fight sequence. Seriously, if the design was slightly pixelated, everything about this would be so on the nose. Starting from Henry's flashing soul then entering the battle to the bouncy black and white graphics, a fully recreated menu, and a perfect blend of Toby Fox's musical styles with that of the Stickmin series. Even the sound effects for typing out the various text come straight from Undertale. or at least so near you can barely tell the difference. Fight has a swipe that does 1 damage with a near identical recreation of the sound effect and animation. I mean, everything about this is near exact. I just feel I should really pay it its dues. The bullet board shrinks down, within which you would normally dodge your heart around incoming attacks. Instead, Macbeth uses his machine gun and mows down the heart. Seeing the conductor riddle you with bullets, it fills you with determination. This is the exact format of statement used when saving your file in Undertale. Henry can instead act and attempt to bribe Macbeth with their own money. He points the gun in a way that cannot be dodged. Henry really bribes? No dignity. Is that a reference to something? I'm unsure about that. I think it's a Naruto reference? No, just a bizarre phrasing, I assume? Anyways, back to the adventure. Ah yes, I see now. How could I have been so blind? It's a Boruto reference. When using Mercy and then Spare, we get yet another Macbeth quote lifted from Star Fox.
They're not taking me serious.
As well as this very intense directional beam, very reminiscent of Sans' Gaster Blaster. If it's not apparent, I maybe have a thing or two to say about Undertale. This section of the game is like a perfect merging of worlds for me. Henry can equip a mirror, changing his soul to the color of patience. Based on Undertale lore, there is no equivalent soul mode in Undertale battles, so that probably just had more to do with the color making sense for a mirror, even though no color really makes sense for a mirror because they just reflect other colors. But you know, cartoon logic. At the end of the battle, Mr. Macbeth is vaporized into ash. This is a really fun play on the way monsters in Undertale disintegrate into dust when killed in battle. But you know, he's a real person, he's not gonna turn into dust, so ash it is. After blasting Mr. Macbeth away, we get this really stilted delivery from a character simply named Grunt.
We can't get in.
Their design, name, and speech delivery are references to the hazardous environment combat unit grunts from Half-Life. Heck you. They actually had this really interesting dynamic speech system to add variety to dialogue when filling in the background of that game, without the need to record hundreds of line variants. The game instead stitched separate words together to make full phrases. It's a super cool system. And Grunt's line here is mimicking that resulting broken delivery.
Squad, all hostiles clear. We can't get in.
Henry can then eject the train car with an inflatable raft, floating off to safety, loading up a cash sack of gold, reminiscent of the $sign bag from Breaking the Bank, and heads off into the jungle, earning the ending Little Nest Egg. Last, but certainly not least in terms of density of references, we have Relentless Bounty Hunter and International Rescue Operative. Henry defeated Right-Hand Man and led to the arrest of the Top-Hat leader. He specifically worked with and was pardoned by the government and very much went against the Top-Hats, being rescued by Charles and fleeing in his helicopter. That relationship with the government was further reinforced in International Rescue Operative, and we would have fully sealed off the option for the betrayal. This opening sequence is an absolute masterpiece. It is nearly a one-to-one recreation of the opening scene from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. I'm going to let that play out entirely, slightly tweaking the Metal Gear version to better match the Henry version.
Top-Hat airspace now.
Altitude 20,000 feet. Wind speed nominal. Visibility's clear. Stand by for drop.
I hope you don't mind helping us out again. I called ahead and got the all clear from the general. I'm sure you've got a lot of questions. Don't worry, he'll fill you in when you arrive. You'll be dropping in on the outskirts of the Top-Hat launch site. We've also got a squad waiting for you when you arrive. Alright, time to drop.
he is.
Do you think he's as legendary as they say?
Although I can appreciate not wanting to animate that excessive flipping, then still executing the very same halo jump as Snake. High altitude, low opening. There's even a clever little spin with Charles's helicopter opening from the side rather than a hangar in the back, allowing Henry to more accurately recreate the way he looked out over the airship back in that previous game. Potentially from the very same chopper when you think about it. Puff credits himself just about every way he can to recreate that opening title credit sequence, including a few jokey ones. He has fail specialist and seat warmer, really padding out those credits. Motivator missing, I assume, is also a joke about how difficult it must have been to find the motivation to carry on after so many years of working on this series. You're just lacking motivation, and you're certainly not motivating yourself. The entire codec call sequence is about as on the nose as any of this could all get, and we get to hear from John Pilkson, an obvious riff on both John Naked Snake and Iroquois Snake Plissken. John Plissken, John Pilkson, just mushing them all together, and his own code name instead being Frog. I mean, that's an amphibian instead of a reptile, but let's not get too hung up on the herpetology. Frog's quote,
Henry, really kept us waiting, huh?
Is a direct reference to a running gag in the Metal Gear series.
Kept you waiting, huh? Kept you waiting, huh? Kept you waiting, huh?
Spoken by one of many Snake characters after lengthy opening cutscenes. His grizzled voice is an obvious impression of David Hayter's iconic performances. It's really funny to hear this character in particular because Puff always pitches up any of his voice acting, and it's especially funny when he's doing a lower, gruff voice.
I'm sorry about Meryl, but I want the lies to end now.
The right-hand man. I thought he was defeated.
I just find the end result quite pleasing. The constant and are pretty iconic, as well as being quoted in Frog's bio. Something less intentional, but an added little detail, is that when you slap a Snake-style headband on a stick figure, they're automatically going to look like Crazy J, the stick page mascot. Obviously something we've seen in the opening credits of the old Flash series. Now, the references don't even stop after Henry lands. This leads into the opening part of Snake Eater's story, Virtuous Mission. The first part of that mission in Metal Gear 3 is in fact subtitled Close Quarters Combat. When we attempt this approach, we hear some skipping grunt effects, a slowed down animation and yell from Henry, furthering the Metal Gear references. The fail text for which is, Henry? Are you alright? Answer me. Henry!
What's going on? Snake! Snake!
Puff must really like this game, eh? Okay, let's move on to non-Metal Gear Solid stuff for a minute at least. Dance Off is a running gag through this entire route, so I'll tackle that at the end. Stealth has Henry crawling on the ground, with a sneak increase to 42 popping up above, being directly lifted from Skyrim's skill leveling system. The gag here is that Kane West actually ironically notices the appearance and sound of that leveling bar, and only after that realizes Henry is down below. 42 may also be a simple nod to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. For me, it's one of those things like the number 23, I can't help but notice it everywhere, and I pretty much always assume it's on purpose. That book series is legitimately one of the most heavily referenced things in the entire history of video games. I have no confirmation of that, but keep an eye out and you'll see references to that and the usefulness of towels and a few other Hitchhiker's Guide fundamentals everywhere. This never would have happened at 100. A common strategy in Skyrim was to max out your sneak, allowing you to basically stroll straight past every encounter you wanted. If instead we use Convert, with Henry using the monk's iconic Wololo conversion technique from Age of Empires, Wololo. We have the guard join up with us and we rush off, although I don't really know where Narwini and Erectus come from. Wololo.
Narwini, stand guard.
Erectus.
Presumably also Age of Empires? When I did my Let's Play of this series, I got so confused thinking the last option on this screen was Covert. Close Quarters, Covert, Stealth, or Dance Off. What the hell just happened?
Stand
You know, I thought thematically that matched really well with the other stealth game-based options, so I had no idea what was going on. I have to go back a step because I'm pretty sure that Wololo is like an Age of Empires thing. How has that been extrapolated to this point? Like, I don't see the connection or through line to a covert thing in any way, shape, or form. That's what you get with sleep deprivation and playing a game reading for far too long. It's also what you get when you're just a little bit slow in the head, I guess. I love this little top hat guy on the shelf. It reminds me of the characters from Nutcase Nightmares, the game. I don't know the actual intended reference though, if there even is one. There are some quick jokes on the screen as Eel hacks into the top hat computer. This appears to be running on something like an orange computer, you know, instead of an Apple. First, he runs a Hacker Things program. Puff slipped a quick 69 in there. And after that succeeds, the computer prompts him to say, "We're in," before accessing the cameras, riffing on the heist movie trope of saying that very thing after successfully hacking. There is a mapping overlay to show how the characters are moving around the base, of course also taken from Metal Gear. The cluster charge is meant to eject a cluster of bombs through the door into the warehouse. This is taken from the operator Fuse in Rainbow Siege 6, with the graphics for the "you killed yourself" mimicking the same outcome in that game. The cluster charge is an effective weapon, but yes, you are likely to kill yourself and teammates with it as well. Henry's blank expression here is very similar to some of the neutral faces seen throughout the Homestuck series. Thank you to people in Two Left Thumbs Discord for helping me figure that one out. The examples were very compelling, which yeah, you guys can come hang out in the Discord. There's a link in the description. Nice triple kill indeed. The way everyone, including the top hats, just immediately get in on the dog pile cracks me up. I want We Doing a Dog Pile to become a meme if it isn't already.
Oh, we doing a dog pile?
Oh, heck yeah, dog pile?
Heck yeah, dog pal.
The way Right Hand Man breaks free is a lot like Neo busting out from underneath a dog pile of Agent Smiths. That scene would be so comical if all of those 100 different Smiths all announced that they were dogpiling first.
Are we doing a dog pile? Are we doing a dog pile?
Heck yeah, dog pile? Dog pile?
The successful option is suppressing fire, before Right Hand Man singles out Henry and starts a battle with him outside, opening it up for Henry to have one free shot on him. The sound effect when hovering over rock, paper, scissors is a lot like that from Mario Kart 64 during an item block roulette. Right Hand Man is a little bit of a cheat here and opts for laser instead. Nobody even told us that was an option. I want best 2 out of 3. Self-destruct is a play on when a player chooses to surrender in a round of worms, including the dropped tombstone. Henry bit the dust is one of the possible in-game texts on screen when a worm dies. Seeing a stick figure inflate to a thick stick is something I didn't really want to see or think about.
This better not awaken anything in me.
Cheap fighting combo has Henry do Terry Bogard's jab and power dunk combination from the Fatal Fury fighting game series. Chaining it together, pushing Right Hand Man up the ramp continuously. Spammy combos like that are literally the only way I can win any traditional fighting games, so I tend to relate. Once Henry is spotted by the other top hats, he may choose to finish him, a direct reference to a pre-fatality moment in Mortal Kombat. And yeah, Henry wins, but he is then immediately Sparta kicked off the ramp by Antonidas Sparta, all playing off of Leonidas and his massive shouting moment in 300.
This is Sparta!
The fail text also quotes this. Notably, it is "mission failed?" with a question mark. Since Henry did succeed in defeating Right Hand Man and leaving the top hats leaderless, he just also died in the process. And for some reason, we straight up have Ali G here, known in this game as Ali Jean. Him be like wicked mental. Big up yourself. Yeah, I'm good at accents.
Yo, we is needing like a new boss man.
This is straight up a Sacha Baron Cohen character, the one he was most well known for before the Borat movie. I don't know, I guess Puff is just a big fan? I kinda love how on the nose it is. I see you, Puff. East Stain's massive, bud. Henry can attempt to rewire Right Hand Man and make him a good guy. He very quickly flips back to siding with the top hats, and his eye does this epic anime flash similar to what was seen when fighting him and infiltrating the airship. It's less of a particular character trademark and more of just a common anime thing, but we've seen him do it before. Since this is the last time we can choose Dance Off off, I will finally address it. In each one of these steps, Henry does the first half second of Donald Fison's iconic Scrubs dance. Yes, I know it's now the default dance in Fortnite, but let's show this man some respect. It should be recognized as his creation first and foremost. Therefore, I treat it as a Turk reference instead of a Fortnite one. With each passing time you use it, the fail narrator gets increasingly frustrated with you. Do not. Cease. No. Stop it. And finally, Henry can use the ocarina, directly from the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Back in the retro room of Stealing the Diamond, we saw a shelf that included 3 different Zelda series instruments. Henry brought back the baton in Fleeing the Complex, resulting in a fail, and here he is now busting out the ocarina. I guess he cleaned out that full shelf while in the museum? I love the way he does such a subtle, simple little sway. The effect of mimicking Link here playing is really well done. He plays Charles's song as he immediately comes to the rescue. I'm really curious if this is meant to be the first few notes of another song heard somewhere else in the collection. That would be a really cool way tying in like a little leitmotif there. Anyways, the Top Hats are defeated and fractured, with Henry turning pro and earning the ending Master Bounty Hunter. Henry has taken down Reginald and Right Hand Man. All that's left are this eye patch guy, possibly who would have owned the patch seen in the Jewel Baron Route Vault. Someone with a big old butt chin. We have seen one character in the series with a butt chin, perhaps they are related, although that other character is pretty strongly neutral, potentially even good. And finally, Gastro, who we saw in Fleeing the Complex and is essentially a toilet wizard. Apparently they're still at large and a desirable target. I mean, they would have been locked up for a reason, right? I covered a couple of bios through the routes, but we can do the rest here at the end. And I should reiterate, I'm not going to include any I covered in either of the previous 2 parts. Right Hand Man is interesting because he actually gets 3 different completing the mission bios. A regular, one with cybernetic enhancements, and one extra where the cybernetic version is briefly turned good. But none of them actually share anything that specific or interesting. In the game files, Right Hand Man is labeled as Top@_Bull, which maybe at some point was an intended name for the character, a quick reveal that would have happened, but he instead remains nameless. Holy Cap jumps in as Henry is trying to escape. Holy Cap refers to the hole in his hat, and is also supposed to sound a little like the expletive holy crap. Chuck Wellington. A chuck is a cut of beef, and beef Wellington is a particular way of cooking beef. That's too many times to say beef in a row. His bio takes this to the extreme that his great-grandfather somehow actually invented beef. Fred Finestone is a simple reference to cartoon character Fred Flintstone from the Flintstones. His bio suggests that he runs around barefoot and shouts a super loud catchphrase, much like Fred Flintstone. Although in-game, he can very clearly be seen wearing shoes, so maybe he only likes to get crazy on special occasions without anything on his feet. My guess is the bio came later and Puff didn't feel like changing all the animation to reflect this goofy one-off sentence. Fred Worst, with his greasy little soul patch, is meant to be a parody of Limp Bizkit's Fred Durst, who, yeah, kind of is the worst. Clement Warrentine is kind of an infix of Warren into Clementine, although I see no larger pun or reference there. MF Jones, which is revealed to be short for Milhouse Fillmore Jones. Now, normally I hesitate to say a shared name is a reference without proof that there's more to it, something linking that name in this character. Like Matilda Ivy shares a last name with Poison Ivy, but nothing else about the character alludes to that, so I don't count it as a reference. It wasn't until researching this that I fully came to realize Milhouse just isn't ever really a first name in almost any context outside of Milhouse Van Houten. So yeah, I'd say that could be an actual reference to the Simpsons character this time. But that MF is also likely short for something a little different, like Jamie Foxx's character in Horrible Bosses. I got really hung up on Bartolomeo. It's like Bart and Romeo and Bartolo. There's just a lot going on, but I don't really see anything specific. I thought maybe that was a slight nod to Bart Simpson to go along with Milhouse. They are both seen in the same train car after all, and both during the Little Nest Egg route, but not at the same time, so I'm really hesitant on that one. It's given even less credence by the fact that we have the more direct Bort Sampson in-game, who obviously refers to Bart Simpson, and even more specifically, the somewhat infamous Bort Bort nameplate gag.
Bort? Mommy, buy me a license plate!
No, come along, Bort.
Are you talking to me?
No, my son is also named Bort.
Larry the Guy is a reference to Larry the Cable Guy. But you know, just a regular guy with zero cable knowledge. Why are you asking about cables? Mr. Teal. He thinks his hat is teal, but it's more of a cyan, really. Maybe a play on the fact that Among Us players never knew whether to refer to this crewmate as teal or cyan, although I believe the debate was eventually settled as cyan. Don Miguel is thought to reference the real-life RPG maker creator of the same name, who is rather notable in that community. Although I'm left totally uncertain how the magical shop/ship joke in his bio fits in. I feel like I'm missing something there. Gordon Banks is the tech guy and as such earned the codename Eel, like an electric eel. Electronics, you know, it fits. Demolitions expert Amelia Esteban operates with the codename Turtle, which may be a joke or a riff on the fact that she hates when things take too long. She's a fast go-getter of a character, they call her Turtle, like when you name a big, tall, muscle-bound guy Tiny. Her name might also be intended to be very close to Emilio Estevez. I don't really see the point in that, but it allows me to include this clip.
I was like, Emilio!
And for that reason, I choose to say it is a reference. Pinkman, with his stylish pink hat, is a reference to Breaking Bad's Jesse Pinkman. Although, this Pinkman is not associated with any chemistry teachers or cartels, he just has a pink hat. In a very brief shootout sequence, we see Rupert Price. This is his 4th appearance in the series, starting back in escaping the prison, continuing on to stealing the diamond and infiltrating the airship, before skipping over fleeing the complex, and coming back now. During that credit sequence of Master Bounty Hunter, we get references to 2 iconic pro wrestlers. There is Wayne the Stone Johnson, playing off of Dwayne the Rock Johnson, and Rock Cool Steve Dallas, who would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. The nickname swaps out a few synonyms, and his last name is simply a different Texan city. The Stone and Rock Cool both have bios describing the idea that they've been looking for an opportunity to claim leadership. I think this is a joke on pro wrestling in general and as a competitive sport, and the constant struggle from the wrestlers to fight to the top and try to claim the title. There's just that continuous drive to be on top. I said I would remind you guys quickly before signing off. Dead Estate is coming out later this year. The #1 thing you could do for us now is to add that to your wish list. You won't regret it. I'm so excited with how it's coming together. And with that, 3 down, 1 to go, 1 final part left. And then, you know, I'm gonna do a little bit of a wrap-up video where I cover all of the missed references across the series. And that list is crazy long, but you know, we're getting there. A huge thank you to patrons of the channel. I did some updates to there very recently, kind of reorganized things a bit. Hopefully it's more clear what is on offer if you choose to support the channel there. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.